Hello, hello. Welcome. We are going to go over charting today, which can be super duper boring, but I hope we're going to make it really, really fun. So let's start by welcoming you in as I typically do. Give me a hi, a hello, a how are you? I had a great day, or I had a terrible day, or just something in the comments so that I could see that you can hear me and you can see me, because you never know sometimes with technology. But it's such a pleasure to be here with you this evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you every single week. Just as a reminder, I'm Carice Laguerre. I am a myofunctional therapist, an author, an international speaker. I do all sorts of things. I do too many things probably, but I am so happy to be here educating you tonight about charting. So really quickly, let's just keep this going. I'm here with you every single week, presenting new information. And I want to also just say that a lot of these lectures come from the conversations that I have with you all. So after I have these, people send me messages in the DMs, people send me emails, I get all sorts of communication and contact. Those of you who have my number will text me, like it's going all the time. So those of you who I am communicating with, you're the reason why we have these topics. Like somebody wanted to know about charting. I'm like, dope, let's talk about charting. Last week, it was hormones. Like, dope, let's talk about hormones. We'll talk about whatever you want to talk about. But let's keep this going as free weekly education. Just make sure that if you are following me on YouTube, that you subscribe and that you turn on some of those notifications so that you see when there's new content, just in case you miss it. The algorithm on social media doesn't always share it everywhere. If you're following me on LinkedIn, make sure you comment and connect with me. I'm happy to connect with you. I love answering questions there too, and share all of these with people who you think it would be relevant information to. Do not gatekeep, okay? That's the whole point of this, is that I don't want us to be gatekeeping. Don't keep information from others. Let's spread the love and spread the word. So, we all know this. If it's not documented, it didn't happen, right? Documentation, we know, is incredibly important for a number of reasons, but everybody who gets into OMT is already a clinician, and it is drilled home with the most certainty that you will come across a time in your career at some point, if you're unlucky enough, but most of us do, where you'll be happy that you documented absolutely everything. Same thing goes for OMT. You have to document. A lot of people like to think like, oh, it's so simple, or I just write down what the exercises were, or just whatever. And like, no, you want all the goods. You need all the tea, all of the information in your notes. Anything that's not documented didn't happen. And if you want to be a practitioner that practices with excellence, because that's the only thing I'm all about is excellence, that means that you're just going to have to step your game up a little bit. Okay. Hopefully tonight I'll be helping you step your charting up a little bit. I'll show you some of my chart notes, like real chart notes where the names have been changed. Yes. But real chart notes, and that way you're able to see examples of like what I do and how I format my things. Okay. So here's some of what we will cover, but there are some essentials that you have to do when you are documenting. In clinical dentistry, yes, there are applications for charting in myofunctional therapy for dentistry. So in dentistry, you're screening, you're assessing, you should be able to document those findings, put it in the notes. Put it in the notes. If you are not going to be the same practitioner that might see them, maybe you're an associate in the practice, maybe you are a hygienist in the practice, maybe you're a temp for the day, you need to have some notes that you talk to them about this thing. That way, the next person who sees them, if it's not you, is able to either continue the conversation or understand what happened during that session. So you saw them clinically, they came in, and you talked to them for a little bit about tongue tie, perhaps. So you talk to them about tongue tie, you screened them for oral myofunctional disorders, and you found something. You discussed that with them. That should be in the file. That way, next time they come back and they're like, last time, I don't remember who it was, but I was talking to somebody about such and such and such. That should be right in their last chart note or whatever note from the last time they were seen, that there was some discussion of that. okay? So any sort of referrals or recommendations, even if it's reading, I always wrote that down when I was in clinical, that I would recommend such and such reading, like read Tongue Tied by Richard Baxter, recommend, whatever, research, or gave certain paper or whatever the documentation was for exactly what my recommendations were. So there's absolutely purpose for that, and I'll show you a little bit of that tonight. In OMT practice, of course, because everything we're talking about is always more OMT focused, we're going to talk about like a little lengthier little set of notes. I will be a little more detailed with my consultation notes and my like session notes. So some of the other stuff we're kind of skipping over just a little bit because a lot of that is in MyoDocs. So MyoDocs is a part of the Myo launch, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's just dive straight in because I think there's a lot to cover and there's a lot that I hope not to run on a tangent about. But if you are in clinical dentistry, this first aspect is for you. You should have some form of screener. I remember very distinctly, okay, Brooms was created in like a vacuum where I said, whoa, what's available right now for myofunctional therapy assessment is not in any way, shape, or form conducive to what the clinical hygiene looks like. We do not have extra time. I know as a hygienist, I know you don't have any extra time. You're fighting for your life to finish all the things that you have to finish in the designated appointment time you have. And you still have to make sure you get your notes done or flip the room or whatever. Like you have a wealth of things to do. You don't need anybody else putting something else on your plate that they're not paying you extra for. That was always the biggest thing for me. Like, don't have me looking at tongue ties and like feeling for them or measuring or giving you some sort of range. Like, you're not paying me any extra for that. Okay. I don't get to work with them as a myofunctional therapist. Like, I'm just charting things down, and it didn't seem very fair. It didn't seem like the fairest request for that to be occurring. So it was something where I sat down and I said, as a hygienist, what's the fastest way we can get to this, right? And then coordinated with Brittany and Brooms. But Brooms is a simple screener, really fast screener. I've presented on this for so many hygiene associations, at a couple of dental associations, and I really love the response to this because every single time I go over it exactly like how we're about to go over it right now, okay? So it's a very simple screener. I can send you this document. All you gotta do is reach out to me, or you could just screenshot it, okay? I also have a Google Doc that I can send you that has everything written out with the check marks and so forth so that you could just copy and paste into your software at your office, along with how you would document this, your findings for this. So don't worry, we're gonna go over it in just a second. I just want to let you know that Brooms is legit. It's been published 3 times already. It's about to be a 4th. I just got the copy today about the Broom screener that's coming out for, well, it's not all about Brooms. It's actually about how to maximize your investment in oral myofunctional therapy courses and education for hygienists. And that'll be coming out in RDH Magazine's November, December edition. So excited. So very excited. But Brooms is talked about again there. So that'll be the 4th time it's been published. But Brooms is something that's been out. It was in Dental Sleep Practice, Spear, and in RDH Magazine, and it's coming again. So this is something that has been published a couple of times. It's not something that I take very lightly. It is incredibly important that people actually start implementing screening into the dental practice because you're screening for other things already. You're looking at their pharmacology list, like what are they taking? You're looking at how that impacts their oral cavity. You should be looking at their oral function and how that impacts their oral cavity. You're looking for oral cancer. Why not look for oral dysfunction? So you got to look for all the things, okay? So how can you do that as fast as possible? Well, Brooms. First, so the Brooms is an acronym, and it's BROOMS, and B is bruxism, okay? So bruxism, how long does it take you to determine if your patient is a bruxer? Yeah, right. Seconds, milliseconds, probably. You probably already know some of them already before you get into your actual clinical appointment. If you've been in the practice long enough, you know who some of those bruxers are, and you understand probably the first thing that they're going to do is hand you their really nasty mouth guard and ask you to clean it. So bruxing, yes or no? Simple yes or no. You know that. You don't have to take any extra time to look for it. Respiration. How long does it take you to determine clinically if your patient in your chair, in your dental op, is audibly breathing? Can you hear them? Sometimes there's even sound to it. It sounds like they are wheezing or they are just audibly snoring while awake. It's really odd. I don't know how to explain that any other way than that, but how long does it take you to determine if you can hear them breathing? Even if this is the last thing you fill out in the rooms, it's like, how long does it take you to really tune into that? Seconds. Okay, seconds. Again, some of them you know. Orally defensive. This is something that I think is incredibly important for us to talk about because we experience it all the time. Some people don't call it oral defensiveness, but that's exactly what it is. The patients are trying to protect their airway. They don't know that. They don't know that they're trying to protect their airway. Okay. What they do know is that when you go in, it's uncomfortable. So their body is fighting you back. Their tongue is pushing against you. All you're trying to do is just retract, and you've got all the forces of the lip counteracting, and all you've ever wanted to do in your whole entire life is just happily scale away 24, 25, and you can't because this lip won't let you. That patient's orally defensive. Okay, orally defensive. How long does it take you to determine if somebody's orally defensive? Does that take away from your clinical chair time? No. And that's a glaring red flag for all of you who are very well familiar with airway and airway dysfunction and oral myofunctional disorders. Glaring red flag, orally defensiveness. Open mouth posture before you even get them back in the dental op. Sometimes as you're just sitting there reviewing medical history or you're waiting for an examination, like, is their mouth open at rest? Yes or no? Okay. Sometimes you might even know like how they commonly breathe because those will be the ones that fog up your mirror the entire appointment. You're like, breathe through your nose. At some point, I was really, really good with my Spanish, at least enough to get through an appointment. Like I could welcome you back. I could ask, how was your day? Any updates in your medical history? But one thing I definitely knew how to say was breathe through your nose. Respira. Respira. Para nariz. Okay? Breathe through your nose. And that is one really, really big sign. So open mouth posture. Sometimes they just weren't able to breathe through their nose. Open mouth posture, yes or no? Maxillary transverse width. Narrow arches. The maxillary arch, is it narrow or is it nice and broad? Is it narrow and vaulted? Do you feel like, oh my gosh, your tongue would never fit up there? As you're looking up there, you're scaling those teeth, you're probing those teeth, you're going and looking in that arch anyway. Is it narrow? How long does it take you to determine that? Seconds. Everything so far is seconds, okay? Because nobody has time to be adding in extra stuff that's not going to pay them any extra money. Strain mentalis. Mentalis. Muscle, it's 2, but muscles right there on the chin could be dimpled, could be very strong, could go along with that orally defensive where you're feeling the tightness and the tension as it's pulling back on you, and the mentalis is straining and it is really tight. Yes or no? Okay. The left-hand column, the yes, audible yes, yes, narrow yes. Any 2 or more that are indicative in that column is please send to a myofunctional therapist, okay? Because these are glaring red flags that they need some sort of intervention. Now, how on earth would you document this? It takes seconds, you get that, you're able to get through it really quickly, but then what do you do with the information once you've done that? you write a note. So you're going to add this, add it into your template in Dentrix, add it in Open Dental, EagleSoft, whatever you're using, okay? Add it. So here's the note. Patient assessed for orofacial myofunctional disorders during clinical intraoral and extraoral examination. Those are things you should be doing anyway. XYZ positive responses. So that's that left column, the, yes, audible, yes, narrow. That. So let's say it's three positive responses found on Broom Screener. Outcome discussed with patient, along with possible outcomes of no treatment. Scoring indicates necessity for referral, and as such, patient was referred to Betty Sue, a local myofunctional therapist for further evaluation. If you don't have one, or you're not referring to anybody yet, or you're referring to just yourself, patient was referred to, insert your name, a local myofunctional therapist. Because remember, RDH and those clinical tasks and what you do then is totally separate from what you do as a myofunctional therapist. I don't know what is going on with any sort of thing. There's all sorts of things popping up with dental boards discussing it and this, that, and the next. I want no parts of that discussion. Don't put it in the chat. If you want to talk about that, you have to book a call or something, because it's not happening tonight and I don't want it happening here. But keep it separate, okay? Keep it separate until otherwise you've been indicated that it is safe for you to intermingle the two. I don't think it's smart to intermingle the two, even when it's safe to intermingle the two. And that's where I'm going to leave that. So just put your name as a local myofunctional therapist for further evaluation. We'll evaluate, assess, screen, whatever you want to put there, again, at next free care visit. At least then you're documenting that you've looked and exactly what screener you used and how you are determining what exactly the scoring was and the metric and so forth. The alternative for that is that they were assessed for orofacial myofunctional disorders during clinical intraoral and extraoral examination. 0 positive responses found on Broom Screener. Result not indicative of further referral or treatment necessity. We'll evaluate again at next free care visit. There you go. Simple, right? Something that you can take away. I am going to check my comments really quick. No comments so far. Let me know that you're with me. I don't even know if y'all are hearing me right now. Like, somebody put something in the chat, even if it's just like a random emoji. Throw it into the chat, okay? Let's keep going, all right? So you got your dental. We got the dental stuff out. Okay? So I don't want my OMTs to think that I forgot about you. I did not forget. I can't ever forget about you. The rest of this is really going to dive into OMT and like what exactly it is you would document as you were doing your sessions and so forth. So I didn't forget about you. In fact, I could never forget about you. My whole life is based around Myo and OMT, and such is Myo Launch, okay? So Myo Launch, wonderful place where you can go and learn more. More recently, Myo Docs was launched just last Friday. Next Friday, 2 courses are coming out, and I'll pause once it gets to that on the scroll here. But Myo Gut is live 3 hours next week on Friday. That's going to build a wonderful bridge for you to be able to work with people who have gut dysbiosis, who have irregularities with their gastrointestinal system, and how you can work with that within your Myo parameters. Myo Docs has some of the documentation for reports, for consultations, for evals. It even has a short treatment plan. It's got everything, all editable documents, in addition to having just regular PDFs. And education on a lot of those topics as well, and videos for what I do for my processes. I will also just really briefly put out that Myo Promo is also coming next week, Friday. And then the following week after that, it's Myo Aesthetics. If you ever want to work with cosmetic cases, this is the class. I've been working on so many things about cosmetic cases. You have no idea what's coming. There's so much stuff coming about that. And then we're going to do a live 3 hours of Myo Recovery, November 22nd, Friday, November 22nd. So lots of fun stuff coming. I can never forget about my OMTs. Y'all are my love and my life source. Okay, so let's get into what you're really here for. Not for that short promo. You're here for me to kind of put a little kick in your butt to get things going in your practice. Okay. I love myth busting. There's nothing more prevalent in this field than myths. There's nothing people love to do more than just strum up and continue to press forward a bunch of myths. You don't have to have an EHR. I don't care how many people tell you you need to have simple practice. Simple practice is expensive. I am all about saving money where I can save money. And that's what most business owners are about. If you've ever known anybody who's worked for Amazon, and I've known somebody who's worked at an executive level of Amazon. They go by numbers, and mine was very high ranking in the numbers. Nobody makes the money that you think they make in Amazon, especially the executives, because Jeff Bezos has built in a culture of saving. Okay. So he's always looking for the best deal, even in his employees. Jeff Bezos only makes $160,000 a year. Nobody can make more than the CEO. So the top executives are making less than what some dentists are making, what some entrepreneurs, some influencers are making. Like, these people are working god awful hours and making significantly less than $160,000 a year. And you would never figure that, right? Never figure that. Like, how is he worth so much money? Stocks, investment. He owns the company. Like, hello, there's other ways to make money. So yes, those executives are also paid in other things. So there is other revenues streams. However, I lead into all of that to say that anybody who tells you that you have to do an EHR, more specifically simple practice, because simple practice is so flippin' expensive, they're leading you astray. If you are a new business owner, you need to cut back on expenses. Be like Jeff Bezos. And that is the only time that even makes sense in any sort of sentence. Outside of that, don't be like Jeff Bezos, okay? But you need to cut back. Make sure you are doing things in a way that is fiscally responsible so that you can have longevity in your career. So that if there is a recession and you're short on patients, you're not trying to bridge the gap between what you're paying for an EHR that you don't need, okay? There's also free EHRs, so you don't have to worry about that. There's so much competition with everything being on the internet. I guarantee you there are multiple free EHRs that you probably have to choose from. There's just not enough research being done because everybody's being led one way. And so don't be a sheep following the herd. Be unique. Be a unicorn. Go your own way, okay? So you don't have to have an EHR at all. And if you do, please make it a free one if you're just starting out. If you're not just starting out, again, you don't need an EHR, but here are some alternatives, okay? You could have paper charts. I love paper charts. There's nothing I love more than paper and pen. And actually, I travel a lot. I do mobile therapy. And so I'm in 2 states. I'm trying to grab these like the safest way possible. I am in 2 states. And so I have a file for New Jersey and a file for Florida. And then I have a file of people that I see through telehealth. And then I have file folders underneath my desk. I have files and paper charts everywhere, absolutely everywhere. And you can do paper charting. There's nothing wrong with paper charting. You just really have to have legible handwriting. And you need to be a person who's super organized in that way. You can also double that over and having a cloud drive. So some people use Google Drive, OneDrive. You can use Dropbox, whatever you choose to use. There's a lot of different ways to have cloud storage. Now, or an external hard drive. If you're going to put an external hard drive, make sure you lock that bad boy away at the end of the night and you don't keep it plugged into your computer at the end of the day, okay? The cloud drive, you can have individual folders for every person. That's where you can keep all their pictures. That's where you can keep all of their files. It's where you can keep your notes for each session, homework sheets, reports, things that come in from other practitioners about that. Keep everything digitally, or just keep it with their paper chart. And then as you have their paper chart, make sure, again, everything gets locked up at the end of the night. Like, everything gets locked up all the time. And that you have a really great way of storing things. Okay? I have the ability to store, and I just really love having paper and pen and pencils. There's nothing I love more than a great sharp pencil. So you can have a paper chart too. Don't feel like you have to go all in and have all this stuff to start off. You don't. Now, this is just for documentation. If you are looking for, like, what are your alternatives then for scheduling, or how do you handle payments, or how do you this, that, and the other thing, if you're not unifying it into one thing in like a simple practice, then that's something we can talk about another time, and just let me know that you want that conversation and we can talk about that. But just know, for all this note-taking stuff that's about to come, all the documentation stuff that's about to come, this can be done on paper too, okay? Doesn't have to happen just on an electronic health record, EHR. Did I explain that already? I don't know if I said that. EHR, electronic health record. An EDR, electronic dental record, would be Dentrix. So conversely, electronic health record is for medical. Okay. Here's some do's and don'ts when making notes. For those, that rhymes, how cute. For those of you who are not familiar or aren't really great with doing notes when you're doing them in your dental practice, or when you were doing them as a clinician, or it's just been so long that you've just kind of gotten a little lazy with some of your do's and don'ts, here are some of the important things that you need to keep track of. So please do make sure you prioritize in keeping the note and writing it completely as close to the visit as possible. So if you saw them today, please, by the end of day today, make sure that you write up your notes, because that leaves you more prone to error. Don't rely on your memory, that you're just going to remember everything, and, you know, I won't leave anything out. Of course, I remember things. I'll do my notes tomorrow. I don't think that's a really great method of note-taking, and there's so many important things that you don't want to lose sight of. So make sure that you are doing it as close to the appointment as possible. Use clear language and standard terminology. So if nobody else is calling it I don't know, if you got your own special name for your program, let's say I call it the MyoSpa program and I do TMSPX. Who is going to know that that stands for, if you were just reading it, if you're a lawyer reading it, if you are a judge reading it, like, who's supposed to know what TMSPX is if I'm the only person who ever uses that? Like, you only want to use standard terminology. You can write that you screen for OMDs, because that's standard terminology in our field, oral facial myofunctional disorders, OMDs. You'll see it online. You'll see people abbreviate it as such. So that's standard terminology as far as like abbreviations and so forth. You want to remain as objective as possible. Don't put in too many of your opinions or irrelevant information. You know, like, some people, you put in the whole PETA thing. People will put PETA in a chart. It's not necessarily the best thing for you to be putting in somebody's chart. Okay, so make sure that you are remaining as objective as possible, and write legibly. If you're doing paper charts, there's nothing more sketchy than to show up in a courtroom or to show up in front of a board if you have to present your notes to a board at any point in time and they can't read what's written there. It looks really sketchy, on top of the fact that most people don't even know what this is, and so you're kind of putting yourself at a disadvantage. So do your best, okay, to make sure that you are following the good rules. All right. OMTs, your very first appointment. I hope most of you are doing consultations. If you're not doing consultations, I have no idea how you just jump straight into an evaluation. But for consultations, I think your note should really consist of a compilation of your client's stories. So whenever I sit down to have a consultation, I had like 4 of them today. It's literally just people were vomiting on me. It's me asking, what exactly are the important events I need to know? How you may have felt, things you may have been told along the way, like what happened between you not knowing about any of this, myofunctional therapy or whatever, and you getting to where you are now. What led you here? They will start from wherever they want to start. Some people will start from when they were in utero. There will be people who are like, okay, well, my mom, she smokes heavily while she was pregnant with me, and I was born prematurely, and she told me that I did not latch, and da 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 da. Like all of these things. Wherever they want to start is where they want to start. That's just more of the puzzle for you to be able to put together. Some people will give you very little. They will give you next to nothing. And they will say, like, I don't know, Dr. Joe told me I need to come and I need to be here. Wonderful. I am so glad that Dr. Joe sent you my way. Now I'm going to have to ask them a bunch of questions, okay? Did Dr. Joe find there was issues with your face? I would never say that, but did Dr. Joe find there were issues with your tongue? Like, what exactly did Dr. Joe point out? Dr. Joe said, my face, that there were spasms going on, and my joint, it's spasming, and I get pain sometimes, and then occasionally on Tuesdays when I go to yoga, and then they will start to give you all of the things. Okay. My consultation note is going to look like a compilation of me bringing together all that information and kind of writing it into a relevant sort of purpose. That way I can understand deeply what is their actual goal. Because all of that word vomit, what led them to you, is going to paint a picture. And they will spend the most time talking about their primary frustrations. When they talk about their primary frustrations, make sure you are actively listening. Okay? If they tell you, they can't remember the last time they were able to breathe through their nose, they haven't slept well in the last 10 years, they love to eat all types of food, their tongue is wonderful, but they mouth breathe. Like, what's the primary issue there? The primary issue is probably whatever's going on in the nose, this nasal obstruction, and a good bit of that is probably associated with the sleep. Okay. Now I know where I can dig in and what is the real reason why they reached out. That way I can know what the next step is. Okay. So your note should really tell this story. Here's an example. One of my real notes. Met with mother for virtual consultation over Doxy.me platform. So Doxy.me is what I use. It's a free telehealth virtual consult, virtual meeting platform. There you go. Over Doxy.me platform. So I specify that. Reviewed paperwork submitted prior. I ask all of them to do paperwork, and that includes my medical history, my background and medical history. That's one form. Registration and intake paper, and the informed consent. If you want copies of all of those, especially in a way that you can edit yourself, that's going to be something that you can get in MyoDocs. But I asked for paperwork in advance for 3 reasons, and I've had 4 doctors who came to me wanting to be patients, but are like, I don't want to fill out your paperwork because I don't know if I'm going to work with you. Well, here's why I need that. I need your registration paper because I need to put you into the electronic health records. Not me, but my team needs to put you into my electronic health records. If I can't put you into my electronic health records, you don't have an appointment. I don't know what to tell you about that. I also need to know what's the best way for them to contact you. All that information is there. So I need that for you to be in the system. Once you're in the system, that's wonderful. But what are we talking about? I would love to have a heads up. So I ask for my background and medical history. That way I know what exactly it is that you want to talk about, and I can prep myself so we can have a better discussion. I don't want you to come in dry and I don't know what we're talking about and the conversation goes left, right, and in between. I want us to be able to have a very strict talk about what your issues are. The informed consent is because I need you to know the limitations of myofunctional therapy. I don't know what Dr. Bob told you, but myofunctional therapy is limited to proper oral resting posture. That's it. I need you to know that before you start talking to me about all the different things that you want to happen, all the magical miracles that you've seen on the internet and that you think are going to happen. I'm not here for that. I'm here for proper oral resting posture. So I need all of these documents. That way you understand what the limitations are and we don't waste time on the consult. You understand, my paperwork. I understand how I'm supposed to communicate with you, whether I can text or email. My team knows how to contact you. We can put you into our paper and put you into our system, our electronic health records, and I know what I'm talking to you about. So I ask for paperwork prior. So I review all that paperwork and I document that I review all that paperwork prior, and I note what I've seen, right? So I note that for this particular person, Dr. Yuri Goldwasser, shout out to Dr. Yuri, he's amazing. He's in Palm Beach Gardens, sent her to us for tongue tie release preparation. Mom states that Jane, not the real name, struggled with latch after birth. Lactation consultant suggested it may have been due to a tongue tie. Mom sought pediatrician's opinion and followed suggestion to disregard whatever that tongue tie conversation was. How many times does that happen? So many times, right? And switched to bottle feeding. No functional issues with speech, digestion, or developmental milestones reported. I will ask specifically, okay? I want to know why are you even coming to me about this tongue tie thing? I get it. There is something that appears to be a tie, but where's the dysfunction? Any speech problems? No. Any issues with digestion? How's the diet? Feeding? Like, you've never had any problems? Great. Developmental milestones? Did you miss it? No. Okay. Well, I don't know. Where could it possibly be? Well, mom did express concerns with mouth breathing and messy, loud chewing. Awesome. Ping, ping, ping. Got it. I found some dysfunction. Now we can proceed forward and continue to talk about the tongue tie. Like earlier today, I had somebody for a consult and we did not need to be talking about the lip tie. There was like no reason why they needed to release the lip tie other than that it was very obviously a lip tie, but there was no dysfunction. And we talked several times about all the possibilities and none of them seemed like they were an issue for them. Awesome. Then you don't need to have that done. Like, my next step is to dismiss you. You don't need me, or you're just not a good candidate for me because I'm not going to take people just to help them prep for a thing that they don't need. So for this specific one, I knew the next step was we're going forward and we're going to focus on the two paths, which way you can do this. You can do this as just focusing on tongue tie release preparation. And so discuss the two paths, focus on tongue tie release preparation and post-surgical active wound management program, or a full myofunctional therapy program that only happens after a comprehensive evaluation. Like, which way do you want to go? So I discussed both options. Mom was going to discuss the program fees with partner, and the next step was for me to follow up for scheduling of the evaluation. And so we have a really nice system where, we have a red, yellow, green, and I actually have, because I'm a paper person, I really am a paper person. So we take our little note cards and I will give them a color, and then we know what to do with the colors. So like red, yellow, green, and then orange is like follow up, continue on, and so forth. So we've got a really great system. I encourage you to develop a system, because if you don't have systems, you never know where things are broken, where processes are broken in your practice. Okay. For your session notes. So that was a consultation. Notice I skipped over the evaluation. That and reporting, it's a lot more detailed. That's more than we can cover in just like a quick YouTube live stream. For your session notes, you want to make sure that your notes answer what session or appointment number you're on, if that's something that's important to you. I'll tell you why it's not important to my practice, and you'll see my notes in just a second. But let's continue on. What the focus of the session was, what progress or lack of progress was made since the last visit, what you accomplished during this session, what you plan on working on next session, and did you receive anything new? So any of the referral partners, even the client themselves may have come and said, hey, I went to go see that ENT you recommended, and this is the report they sent me. I'll email it to you. They email it to me. If I receive it, awesome. Like, it goes in with that. There's a place for me to upload it in my template in CHARM, Electronic Health Records. Did you provide any handouts or reports? And there's also a place for me to upload any handouts that I have given them. So if it's anything new, like, it needs to go in there. I never advise that anybody run their myofunctional therapy program or have their fees or their setup like I do. But when you see my notes, you'll note that I do not put what session or appointment number I am on. Okay. I don't do that because it's not really relevant for me per se, because I do a one set program fee. My one set program fee is encompassing of results. I am results oriented. If you're going to commit to a myofunctional therapy program, I'm going to meet you, and I'm going to commit that we're going to get results, and we don't stop working until we do. So we have one set fee, you pay, and it covers us through whenever the end is. So if we don't reach the end, which so far, knock on wood, has never happened, but if we don't reach the end, we just keep working together forever. And you paid this one fee, and that's all. But if we, go a little longer, it always benefits the patients, because they're able to now get a little bit more. Okay. So I don't put that in my notes because it's not relevant to me. However, how I teach that you should put notes is going to look a little different. So you want to template the essentials. Now, when you template, I like to have as much done for me as possible. So if I could just click on a thing and it just works out, yay. So session or visit number, and then whatever it is, like if I can put 1 through 20, and then I just click on 1 if it's session 1, or I click on 13 if it's session 13, and then it auto populates for my notes. I love that. So when you can template and you can create selections, make your life easier. Just click on things and kind of go where you can. Your review. Sometimes the review can't be automated. You'll see parts of my review where I have selections, where I have a choice. And from there, I can really make it what I need it to be for that particular one. But review, you might want to type out, like, you reviewed the following exercises and you noted that, etc. Okay. The work. The assessment of progress. So program is progressing as initially planned or not. Program may need to be extended, or like what's happening. Okay. Session work. Worked on jaw stability this visit, worked on tongue retraction this visit, worked on tongue cupping this visit, demonstrated exercises, and whatever. Program prognosis, looking good, not looking good, might need extension, whatever. What was the regimen of homework that is recommended, and then what your planning is. So that's one way. I highly recommend you go this way. A SOAP note. So hopefully many of you have heard of SOAP notes. If you haven't heard of SOAP notes, let me know in the comments. Happy to talk to you about what a SOAP note might look like, because many of you may have gotten some sort of generic template from here. But those of you who are working in a dental office doing myofunctional therapy, those of you who are billing out through a medical dental software, or who are billing out through a practice, you have to use SOAP notes. Okay, SOAP notes are incredibly important. These are going to be how you really keep yourself in line and practice with excellence. And this is more commonly how I would write my note. Okay. So SOAP note is going to consist of subjective information. So that's what the client tells you is relevant information. So any sort of things that they are experiencing, like, oh, I've been waking up with, lockjaw and morning headaches and yada, yada, yada. Like, that's what they're reporting to you. So anything that they're reporting is yours, your subjective material. Objective. What was determined based on your evaluation? What do you know to be true? Okay. This can get updated. It continually be the same thing within certain parameters, because you might be working on the same thing. And what's the status of that thing during therapy? Okay. You'll see an example of this, I promise. Okay. So your objective has to be based on your evaluation and what you have actually witnessed with your own eyes based on your knowledge and expertise. Assessment. Your observations and interpretations of the information that's been presented. So with your subjective and your objective, like, what's your interpretations? What did you observe? How did you assess them to be during this particular visit? And then what you plan to do next time is your P for planning. Okay. So SOAP, SOAP. I would encourage you to template some of this where you can in an electronic health record. Or for those of you who are not using electronic health records, what I would do is I would create a document where I can double it, like make a copy, make a copy, make a copy is what I mean by double it, in your cloud-based system. That way everybody gets a similar note. So in Google Drive, how I would make this look is that it would come out as I'd have 4 different templates, be like initial consultation template, SOAP note template, frenectomy template, because I know I have a specific one for frenectomy, and then it would be evaluation. That's the last one, evaluation template. So I'd have those 4 documents. They would sit outside of folders. So they would just sit just in my drive. Then let's say I have Jane Doe's folder. I can make a copy of such and such document. So if I saw her today for a SOAP note visit, like it's a regular session, then I'm going to copy, put it in her file, and then edit from there. And that's her file for whatever the date is typically what I would title the document. So the document, and then that's my note. Hopefully that's clear. Let me know if I'm losing any of you. Okay. For the session charting, this is a real SOAP note for a Jane Doe. Okay. Mom took Jane to see ENT Dr. Carolyn Agresti in West Palm Beach on 4/27/22. Jane was scoped and cleared by the ENT for nasal patency. Mom reports Dr. Agresti recommended Flonase if mom is concerned about adenoids and continued upper respiratory congestion. ENT not concerned and does not recommend adenoid removal. Reasserted the need for myofunctional therapy to establish nasal breathing and palatal expansion to broaden nasal floor. This is all under my S, my subjective. Everything, all of this was told to me by mom. Like, I really love Dr. Agresti. She doubled down on the myofunctional therapy. She's not concerned at all, does not recommend that we do anything about the adenoids. Awesome. Love it. Okay. So worked out really great. That's everything I'm not privy to. Conversations they had elsewhere, things that are reported to me. Mom also took Jane for a manual therapy session with Heidi. Shout out to Heidi for clinical oral facial massage and evaluation on 4/29/22. Heidi reports, again, this is in my subjective, Heidi reports lingual buccal and labial ties present and recommends release. Taught Jane some breathing exercises in the interim. Awesome. All of that subjective. Along with this other sentence too, mom reports more thrashing during sleep and restless sleep since last visit. I cannot automate any portion of that. Like that is a real subjective report that comes in from one visit, seeing this person after they've been to the ENT and to the manual therapist and just getting my regular update. Otherwise, it might have looked just more like mom reports more thrashing during sleep and restless sleep since last visit. It might have just looked like that. Okay. Now, reviewed exercises previously prescribed. Since the last visit, patient has not adequately accomplished any exercises and require a review. That is something that I actually do have note automatically, whatever. So both of those statements, reviewed exercises previously prescribed, or the other alternative that I could select to automatically populate is going to be first visit, no previous exercises. So that's obvious. But since the last visit, the patient has not adequately accomplished any exercises and requires a review. It also could be, since the last visit, patient has adequately accomplished all exercises and does not require a review. And then the last one is like, since the last visit, the patient has adequately accomplished some exercises and requires a review of, and then I leave myself space to write whatever the things are that they need to review. Patient has expressed no noticeable change experience. I wonder why, because they have not accomplished any of the exercises and require a review. So now we're going to assess reassessed oral frenum. This is what I found. Lingual frenum, loose to touch upon evaluation, smooth during lingual palatal seal, no functional restriction found. Buccal frenum, mandibular loose, maxillary presents with a small restriction upon manual sleep, no functional restriction found. Labial frenum, mandibular loose and insignificant. Maxillary presents with a low insertion point on the maxillary alveolar ridge, but smooth to touch. No functional restriction found. Possible restriction for mandibular expansion. That's my assessment. Okay. All right. Patient is not making significant progress, and parent informed that patient is off schedule and treatment may need to be extended or continuation of program evaluated. No exercise regimen has been followed since last visit. That's my reasoning that goes under like why they're not making sufficient progress and things that I can check off in my template. But alternatively, it's patient is making significant progress and treatment is expected to end on time. That's it. Okay. Here's what we did so we assessed and it's not looking good. We got our prognosis. Here's what we did. Here's what we actually accomplished in the visit. At mom's request, we shortened the exercise list. Prescribed exercise regimen of 2 to 3 times daily, nasal breathing protocol, battle button, upside down reading, cave hold, motorboats. Next session goal, our P for planning, introduce lingual retraction, improve lingual palatal seal. End note. Okay, so is that 3 slides of notes? Yep, 3 slides of notes. But it all comes out on one note for them, and it's very easy to follow. You can figure out why things are happening, and it's something that you're not guessing. It's very clearly written there, what happened, what I found, what I did, what the prognosis is, what I left them with as far as their exercise regimen, and then where we're going next. Hopefully, if they actually do the work that they were supposed to do. Okay. Let me know if I'm losing you. Okay. Because now we're going to dip into a little bit of charting for insurance. So SOAP notes are very important. I think it just is a way of practicing excellence, and there's no better way for you to be actually documenting things than in a form of excellence, giving it your all and not just throwing in a bunch of exercises and like session number 4 did, XYZ exercises. We'll see them next time. That's not a great note for excellence, and insurance is going to laugh at you and never reimburse you for anything. But those of you who are tempting fate by doing insurance billing or doing anything with medical insurance, you know that your note has to be a little bit more substantial, and it has to contain that medical component that is going to justify the necessity of that visit. So it should show a picture of what you are clinically working to improve. For example, your SOAP note would read, patient presents with chief complaint of right facial tension and history of TMD. That could be how they presented the very first time you've seen them. And if they're still experiencing that, guess what goes on the subjective complaint? That every single time, okay? You're still working towards. Objectively, you notice unilateral chewing on the right reported, and patient displayed that function in office. So they're complaining of right facial tension, history of TMD, and you see unilateral chewing in office demonstrated. It paints that picture. Okay, these two things are associated. Lingual palatal seal, weak on the left. Taught exercises, squishy release, cave hold, kaga. Don't worry about the names of the exercises. Everybody calls things differently, but just note that there are exercises there to work on. What are you working on? Why are they doing these exercises? Not because it's fun, not because it's session number 6, and on session number 6, we always do exercises, No. What is it for specifically? What are you targeting, and what are you going to be able to say that you've accomplished as a result of doing these specific exercises? Well, these specific exercises are working on strengthening the lingual palatal seal and posterior tongue engagement, which we know is a problem, okay, because the lingual palatal seal is weak and there's not enough engagement going on that they're chewing bilaterally. So we've got a unilateral thing going on, right? Reevaluating lingual palatal seal at next visit. Planning to teach chew tubes with unilateral use on left side to work underdeveloped buccinator and masseter muscles. that is giving such a picture of somebody who understands what they're doing, why they're doing it, and knows that we are targeting a specific goal. You've given me a reason why we're doing these exercises. It's not because it's session number 6 and that's what you do on session number 6. And I feel bad for those of you who have those cookie cutter programs, because you won't ever be able to really justify your notes. And so please don't go billing out and giving people super bills, because nobody's going to be able to understand your insurance notes. But for those of you who would like to practice in a little bit more of excellence, those of you who understand how to build out a custom program, who understand how to target specific things and why you're doing the exercises that you're doing, you're not just giving them just to give them, you'll kind of lean more towards writing a bit more like this. So you've gotten to see a little bit of how it can vary. It can be super simple and just really just target all the bullets. It can be a little more in depth and hit that SOAP and all the requirements for SOAP, or you can demonstrate your medical knowledge by charting for insurance. Either way, make sure you're charting, okay? Make sure you do not forget to write a note. So write a note in some capacity, okay? If any of this was confusing, if any of this leads you with more questions than answers, it is so much easier for me to have a talk with you if you're on my calendar and we can chat about it like in a thing. I love all of you who send me messages. I love you all so much. Thank you so much for sending me the messages, but you have no idea why I respond to you so late. It's because there's so many of you who are sending me messages, and I still work. I still work full time. I still put together live lectures every week. I still teach and put together other things for my own launch and for other people, and I do IAH. I have a lot going on. But if you designated time to speak with me by just using my link, I promise I'm giving you my full attention and every single answer I can possibly give you to all the questions that I know you have, okay? So book a call to chat if you're confused. Even if you're not confused and there's something you want to see me talk about, like, it's easier for us to just chat about it rather than me trying to be like, oh, I forgot to message so-and-so, and then in between random tasks that I'm doing, I'm trying to get back to your message, okay? I'm going to leave you with this quote. Tony Robbins: change is inevitable. Progress is optional. Progress is the only thing that is going to get you to move from where you are now to where you want to be. So if you are not where you want to be in your OMT career, if you're not where you want to be in your hygiene career, you've got to make some progress. Do something. Do something about it, okay? And that's what all of this is all about. It is all about us just moving the needle forward for one, if not all of you, okay? Change is inevitable. This is the type of format of thing that I wish I had when I first started out. I would be so much farther. Wherever you think I am now, I would be so much farther if for the last 7 years I had somebody to really nurture what it was that I was like trying to build. And so just make that progress, little baby steps, baby steps. I will keep showing up for you if you keep showing up for yourself. I am going to pop over and see if there's any questions. I don't see any questions, but I see all of your beautiful notes. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you guys all so much. It's been such a pleasure being here with you this evening. I look forward to seeing you next week, where we'll talk about something new. I don't know what the topic is yet, but have a great night, everybody. Bye.